Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken?
Hey, Kiernan.
Hey, Ryan.
How are you?
You know, I could do without you chasing me right at the minute that the meeting's supposed to start. It's a little behind the scenes for the crowd here, but Ryan's got a real bee up his travel bonnet these days.
It's just been a busy day, Kiernan. I am sorry.
And is that a new tailored travel bonnet that you've just had made?
Very funny. Very funny. No, I'm not wearing any kind of bonnet. I'm in a store-bought Tommy Hilfiger polo. You know?
And are you wearing a hat? I've noticed you've really taken to hats over the last year or two.
I often wear a black baseball cap because I got into that because
from Succession. Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, and I'm never gonna take it off because I'm still living I'm still hoping.
Isn't there any hat in White Lotus, some more up to date reference than Succession?
I'm not gonna wear those kind of hats around, Bogota. The baseball cap is a socially acceptable hat to wear anywhere,
Now, where you can really wear a baseball hat? Detroit, Ryan. They've got a baseball team.
Yeah.
And so baseball hats, very acceptable. And I'm very excited for today's topic because we are returning to what I think is one of America's great cities.
Yes, we're going to Detroit, a city we both love, and I'm excited just to hear what you've discovered lately.
I was fresh there. I've spent a lot of time in Detroit, and I went back. We have a previous episode about Detroit that was called Detroit 101. So I couldn't remember. Does it become 201 or 102?
I don't think we've ever
We've never cracked that.
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to look at some academic course catalogs. But before we get into the meat of the episode, we've got to do the Judy alert because I think I know where you are right now, but I certainly don't know where you're going. I know you're right up against a car pulling up. And from what I understand, the driver is going to basically take a martial action against you if you are not free in exactly an hour.
I have to be. Yeah, exactly.
Are you literally going to the airport right after this?
No. I'm not going to the airport. So
what are you going to that's so urgent? I'm curious to hear.
Tomorrow I'm going to the airport. And today,
today. Where's today's car going?
Today I have to go pick up something I need for the wedding.
Please tell me that you are not going to pick up this tailored suit that you have not stopped talking about for 6 weeks.
I have to. This is the only time they could do it. So I'm at the mercy of my tailor.
Rushed to get this recording session on so that you could pick up your tailored suit. Is that what I'm to understand?
I need to wear a suit to the wedding.
Don't they have a TaskRabbit version in Bogota?
No, but they're trying it on to see if they have to do anything last minute.
Okay. All right. So I'm gathering you're suit. In Bogota then.
I'm in Bogota and I'm going to Mexico and then I'm going off to Ireland for the wedding. So I'm flying north and then I'll head over to
what's the route? Is there a direct Mexico City to Dublin?
Yeah, I think I'm flying direct to Dublin. I don't even remember. No, it's too long to be direct. No, it's definitely not direct.
So where are you going through?
I don't know. Some place.
Look it up live. This is very exciting stuff. Yeah. Look it up.
I am not the one who is actually flying the plane. So I leave that to the professionals. Okay, I'm looking it up.
I'm gonna take a guess that you're stopping in New York.
No, I'm stopping in. Oh man,
Atlanta.
Oh, so this is I did some. So I'm actually flying from Puerto Vallarta. So I'm going Puerto Vallarta, Atlanta, Paris, Dublin. Just just a quick.
Oh man, that is a lot of transfers.
Yeah.
And you've got to keep this suit that you're obsessed with.
Yeah.
Without a wrinkle that whole time. How are you doing that?
Well,
you're not putting it under the plane, are you?
I got this bag that is a carry-on bag that unrolls and you can
sure.
function. Yeah. So we'll see how good that is.
It's like a rolling wardrobe bag.
Well, it doesn't roll because
No,
I
but you
looked at it.
roll it up to try
Yeah,
to prevent wrinkles.
yeah, exactly,
And
exactly.
there's
So I
a
don't think
lot riding on this suit. Do the other wedding attendees understand that the suit is actually the main reason for the function?
we got. I mean, we got like a lookbook, Kieran. You didn't do this for your wedding. We got a lookbook with 3 different suit
Wait, are you
styles.
in the wedding?
No,
No,
this
no,
is
you're not
just
in the wedding. Okay,
no. This is
you're just as obsessed with the wardrobe as the bride is, but
no.
you're
But
not.
they sent us this thing, and there was 3 different looks, and there was a country dandy look, and that's the look I went for because I'm a
Now, when
country
you're saying
dandy.
they sent us, are you referring to yourself in the royal we and us?
Us people attending the wedding, the you know the
Have your
attend
pronouns changed that I'm unaware of?
the attendees of this wedding. Uh,
Oh, the
yeah,
attendees received a lookbook like you have to fit this look for the wedding?
you should. This is what you should look. And there were 3 different.
Never heard of such a thing.
Well, it's gonna, So I don't have a dandy country suit with me in Bogota, so that's why I had to have one made.
And it dictated the color.
It dictated the style. I went with like a mine's sort of Oscar Wilde. I think it's fun. I didn't make it as fun as I wanted to because I want to be able to wear it more than once.
Was that outside of the lookbook standards?
It's just inside the lookbook standards. I mean, in the lookbook they had like a suit with chainmail. Okay, so like the lookbook had a lot of ideas.
What that means.
It's like Lord of the Rings meets wedding.
Okay. All right. That might suit you actually. And then a new hat. You could get a one of those big armor things.
Well, I'll send now that everyone knows about the suit. I'll definitely post a photo from the wedding.
All right. And where in Ireland are you going? You flying into Dublin?
I'm flying into Dublin, spending a couple days in Dublin. Really excited about that. I'm going to get like one great meal in, and then taking the train like 2.5 hours west to this little like coastal town.
Wow. And then are we staying in Europe for a while?
Yeah, well, here's the craziest thing because I'm such a planner. I have no idea like what I'm going to do after September 21st, between September 21st and October 7th when I
feel like they're going to ask you that at an immigration. They love asking that question.
Oh yeah, like I'm going to stay in Ireland.
Well, I distinctly remember once I got off in England and they said to me, "When are you leaving?" And I said, "I haven't booked it yet." And the agent said, "Sir, it is my job to be sure you leave this island."
Yeah, and you've been there now for
yeah, going on 15 years. National healthcare, it's the best. But you've talked about you were inspired by my recent London trip. You might go to London.
London is high on the list.
I think you should do it. Have you ever been to York?
I've never been to York.
You should go to York. Have you ever been to Liverpool?
No, I have friends in Manchester, which I've also never been to.
I think that there is a definite England travel around England.
Yeah, but there's also like be really lazy and just go to Madrid for 2 weeks. Like
what are you saying about the Spanish, Ryan?
No, it's just chill.
Every time you talk about the Southern Europeans, it's a very judgmental tone. I
have read. I'm almost done this book on the Spanish conquest, and let me tell you, they don't come across great in that book. Either does Teddy Roosevelt, by the way.
Whoa.
There's some quotes I want to send you.
Okay, all right. This isn't the Teddy Roosevelt podcast that we have to eventually do. All right, so flying into Ireland, you're gonna bum somewhere around Europe for a while, and then do you have an end date that you have to come back?
Yeah, I have my mom's Airbnb in Ocean City, Maryland, reserved from October 7th, so I'm there for a week.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that brings Judy straight up to date. Yeah. We're going to have to check in on the European parts, but I feel like I have a good sense of where you are.
Maybe Romania again.
I mean, you could do worse than going back to the Bram Stoker or going for the first time to the Bram Stoker castle.
I know.
The one thing there is to do in Romania that you didn't do over, you spend 8-9 weeks there?
Reason to go back.
All right. Now I feel up to date with the Judy alert. However, I'm excited for a new segment that we've got, which is checking in on your midlife crisis. Because let's see, this is a compliment because for you midlife, you'd be living to like 92, 93 if this is midlife. So, you've recently the Ozempic, you've Ozempic'd it up. Are you currently on Ozempic?
Yeah, I'm back on Ozempic.
You're back on. And then, so how long between you took off? Like 10 weeks, something like that?
I just took off like 6 weeks probably.
And did you feel a distinct difference?
Definitely, I definitely wanted to drink more.
Sure. Yeah.
But my appetite never returned to 100%, and I only gained
Wow.
back a
Interesting.
couple pounds. And I wasn't trying to not lose, like I was just trying to kind of like live normally. So,
And I feel like we
yeah.
got the tailored suit in piece, but you've got some major news. Some major news. You have altered your body in a way that I mean, it's virtually irreversible. So, do you want to
Yeah.
share with the folks what self-mutilation you've done?
I got a tattoo of Saint Sebastian.
And it's
Uh,
I was showing it to some of your younger coworkers at your agency, and they described it as a statement piece, which I thought summed it up perfectly.
yeah, it's a kind of exciting, it's San Sebastian. Sort of as like a hot dude, and he's getting the arrows, and there's fire.
For
It was
I mean, you got to play why Saint Sebastian, and then
yeah.
what's sort of the legend around Saint
Yeah,
Sebastian.
so Saint Sebastian is this character in Roman mythology who is a saint and was almost killed by all these arrows that struck him. And when I was, we talked about this on the Rome episode. When I was in Rome, I actually went and I got to see where he's buried.
I'm gonna talk about that. I figured
Yeah,
we needed a travel hook because we've been getting one or two complaints in the reviews that sometimes we just talk to each other and they don't like that. They always want everything to be focused on travel for
yeah,
this travel podcast. So I'm going to talk about that exact church.
yeah. It's a super. I got to go to that, and then what happened to the myth of sort of Saint Sebastian is during the Renaissance, a bunch of these gay painters painted him as a very attractive young man because they were painting their lovers, and then sort of Saint Sebastian became this sort of gay icon, and now he's been in movies and books and novels. He comes up a lot as sort of a gay icon, really because of the Renaissance and how he was portrayed as this sort of like Adonis sort of
Does it not have to
dude.
do with the fact that he's being pierced by arrows? I always
I
thought that must be
do, I
part of
do,
it.
I do think the piercing is certainly like a metaphor that's hard to escape. Absolutely.
So take us through for your exact tattoo. What was your direction? Does it reflect your young lover?
No, it doesn't. That's a question I've gotten now multiple times. Uh, so no, it's more of an idea.
Mm,
But
mm.
so this all came about because I'm friends with this muralist who does a lot. It was actually just did a ton of murals in Europe over the last few months, and his name is El Señor Sin Cabello de Pan. So it's like
That sounded very AI. Did you just type that into a
no,
voice
no.
AI to say it
I
correctly?
can never say it right. I
I
call
thought
him
it was
by
beautiful.
his
Maybe
real
we could give a
name.
link to his social media or something. Give him a boost because he's got a cool kind of cartoony style. It's kind of Simpsony.
He was raised in The Simpsons. He's like 32, so he's raised in that Simpsons era, that Family Guy era, and a lot of younger people think his style is more in like sort of the Rick and Morty. Um, so
Hmm.
we can definitely share it in the show notes. Most of his stuff is PG, but if you scroll down enough, you'll probably see some R-rated stuff. So just FYI. But he's a
And
really
where does your
brilliant.
tattoo fall in the parental guidance?
It's definitely PG-13. It
PG
doesn't.
13. Yeah, I'd agree with
Yeah,
that.
it
PG
doesn't
13.
show. I mean, what was the Passion of the Christ rated? That was rated R. That was pretty violent.
I mean, I thought Sebastian could be wearing, shorts or something. I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one piece.
you don't like the Calvin. Yeah, so
I
Sebastian's
didn't say
wearing
I
a
didn't
Calvin
like it.
Klein.
I
Yeah,
just said that if you were going for more of a PG rating.
yeah. No, no, no. I think that we like the Calvins. Anyway, so I think it's travel related too, in a way that I've spent so much time in Latin America in the last couple of years, and it's sort of like literally like a physical memory of all that time. 'Cause I
Yeah,
got it
and
in
it's
Bogota.
got and it's got your Catholic upbringing. I
Yeah,
like it. I think
and
I think it's I think it's a great choice for a subject matter for
thank
you.
you. And I told you, Catholicism is cool again. So
Of
yeah,
course. I mean, Pope from Chicago, it's
he's awesome.
back.
I can't wait to show him this tattoo.
Uh, I can't wait for his childhood home to open as a museum.
That's
We
good.
will
Yeah.
definitely be going to visit that together.
I
And
can't wait till he goes to his first Cubs game.
for that travel hook, you're talking about the Basilica of Saint Sebastian outside the walls. That's the name of the church in Rome, and it's got some cool stuff that relate right to the story that you said. It's got one of the arrows that is said to have struck Saint Sebastian. And it's got, Sebastian is usually shown having been tied up against a column that the arrows are then shot at. It's got a piece of the column, a great statue of Saint Sebastian, sort of prostrate, and this is a good one. Don't most of them are focused on Saint Sebastian. Footprints of Jesus Christ. Not a bad relic for a church to have on hand.
I I saw I saw all that stuff. I have to say the footprints are not as cool as you might be imagining. I'm just a little skeptical of the authenticity of the footprints.
No,
Yeah.
surely these are the real footprints. And Saint Sebastian also apparently the reason that he got on the bad side was he was quietly helping Christians who were imprisoned by the emperor.
Yeah.
So that just helps let you know how he got on the wrong side.
Right. Gays have always been like defund the police, even back then.
All right. Okay. Fund the police. Let me quote Joe Biden. I say fund the police. All right, Ryan. Well, with all of that, I mean, I feel exhausted. I'm glad we focused on you this week. You don't get enough attention. So I think it's time that we head to a great city, a city you and I are very fond of, and it's called Detroit.
Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
All right, Ryan. So Detroit, Motown, just a quick reminder, what is your background with Detroit? You spent much time here?
I've been to Detroit probably 6 times.
Wow.
So
That's
quite
more
a
than
bit.
I thought.
Yeah. Like over the years, conferences. I had a friend who taught out there, visited him a time or two. It's I've always had a really warm vibes with Detroit.
Yeah, it's the same thing I've said about what I like about Chicago, where it feels like it's like a working city. It's like a real person city. Because I always feel like New York is a rich person city. I feel like Boston is like an intellectual city. And whenever I go into Chicago or Detroit, I'm like, yeah, this is where like real stuff gets made.
Yeah, these are the cities that like how cities used to be.
And so if you're planning a trip to Detroit or you just want further background on Detroit, the mainstays of tourism in Detroit is in Detroit 101, which is episode 153 in your feed. So if you go back 153, I'll put a link in these show notes. That's going to give you your basics. And here, I wanted to return to Detroit because I've just been and I made some discoveries. I've been to Detroit innumerable times because I used to work with Ford Motor Company. And you never were on that account with me, right?
No, it was never Team Detroit. I was always wanted to be.
It was called Team Detroit. We would have been happy to have. I would have been very happy to have you. Those trips were sometimes pretty rough, but I always tried to make a point of getting out into the city and exploring it each time I had to travel for work, which is one of our go-to tips. But one thing, there are two places that I felt like I never was able to do like proper tourism. One is really going out and exploring parks and nature within Detroit, which is not something that it's greatly known for. But I'm going to talk to you about a specific park that I think
they have an Olmsted, right?
It deserves that reputation. I'm going to give you an interesting story about Olmsted's tie to it.
Fantastic.
And it's interesting that you think it's his because not nearly was his, but was not his. So we're going to talk about the nature and the waterfront because it's got the Detroit River that goes straight through it. You can see Canada straight across the way. You got American flags on the Detroit side. You got big Canadian flags flying on the other side. So it's this key international gateway city. And also the food, it's got great food. And I came to appreciate that even more on this particular trip.
Yeah, I've always had some good food in Detroit. I'm excited to hear about some updates.
All right, so let's start with the nature side of things. So this was particularly a family trip. I had the kids with us, so we were looking for some outdoor activities, and it turns out that there's a terrific river walk all along the Detroit River, and there's a fun kind of cultural historic artifact to see there too, and it's called the Cullen Family Carousel, and it's in an area on the river walk called Rivard Plaza, and so you're right on the water, and there's sort of river cruises and things that go by, and it's very peaceful and very lovely. We took breakfast down there one morning and had it, and it's this great carousel that has an interesting story behind it. And I was reading about it, and it just rang a bell with me, which is it was done by this guy named Jeff Briggs, and Jeff Briggs is one of the last great carousel artists in the world. And the reason I know him is because in my Secret Boston book, there's a Boston carousel that he carved, and I interviewed him and chatted with him and bought his book because I found his art so interesting, because he talks a lot about the engineering challenges of sculpting the animals and creatures that you're going to ride on the carousel.
That is such a cool little connection.
It's very specific, and it's why he's one of the leading experts. I mean, he's one of the last artisans who is still designing carousels. And he said, this used to be a really strong trade, especially in the sort of the era of fairs and circuses and, kind of before modern entertainment. And he's really keeping that alive. And so he did in Detroit the same thing he did in Boston, which was to build a carousel that features indigenous creatures to the Detroit River area. So he's got an egret, a snail, a loon, a frog, an eagle, a heron, a sturgeon, a river mermaid, and a river monster. It's great. It's so whimsical. It's so fun, and it's free. And I love a free activity with the children.
I'm looking at it right now, and it's super cute.
It's really beautiful, and it's free because it was like endowed by the Cullen family that it's named for. And apparently one of the parts of the brief that he had to answer was that they wanted the carousel to be viewable from the Canadian side. And it's not super close. It's a pretty wide river. And so the way they did that was they extended the tent above the carousel very, very high. So if you're on this river walk, you're going to know where that carousel is. And I recommend you take the time and go and ride it. And if you take the full length of the river walk, you say you're starting near the carousel, you're going all the way down, you're going to eventually hit a big bridge. And the bridge leads you over to something called Belle Isle. And Belle Isle, I mean, I guess I would compare it as sort of the Central Park in that it is the largest, sort of most famous. If you're going to go to one park in Detroit, this is the park you're going to go to. And it is properly an island in Detroit River, and it's connected by a bridge to get over it. You do have to pay a significant parking fee. Hopefully your rental car is Michigan registered, as mine was, because that gives you a good discount. So in fact, maybe when you're booking your car, you're going to want to make sure that you get that. And by the way, when going to Detroit, I do recommend that you rent a car. Things are close. You can get to pretty much everything we discussed in Detroit 101 and here in 201 in about 25 minutes, but it's a lot of hopping on a highway and hopping off 2 or 3 exits later. It's just a real motorist city, which kind of makes sense for where it comes from. And Belle Isle, I had visited when I was back visiting Ford, but I made a huge mistake, which is I visited it in the winter. And in the winter, it's pretty dead. I'm in Michigan, famously pretty cold in the winter. Chilly, and it looked like a nice park in the winter, but it didn't really capture your imagination. Seeing it in full swing on a beautiful summer weekend, I came to appreciate, oh my God, Belle Isle is like a destination unto itself. And if I had to change something about this trip, I probably would have put aside 6-7 hours just to spend on Belle Isle. And that's because there's tons of stuff to do, not just the nature, but there's also a lot of cultural elements that if you want to take the time, especially if you want to get some athletic workout in, you can rent a bike, you can take long walks or hikes, and you can really explore the island properly. So the island, by the way, it's called Belle Isle, which, good branding. But when it was originally settled by the French in the 1700s, they called it Hog Isle, which I kind of like that too.
This is fascinating. I'm looking at a map. I had never seen this before. I've never like heard of this before.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to draw so much attention to it, because I feel like I think a lot of people know that it's there, but don't appreciate how much there is to do on it. And the thing that struck me the most was how many parties were going on this a beautiful summer weekend. And I was talking to some of my friends who live in Detroit, and they said, "Oh yeah, like this is full families all summer long. They load up the grill." They load up a ton of food, a ton of drink, and like every weekend, every other weekend, they claim these big grilling spots that are all over the island. And they do family parties where they hang out there for like 6, 7, 8 hours at a time. And so the air is filled with awesome grill smells. My kids were like, "Why can't we go eat those hot dogs?" And it's like, well, because we don't know those people. But it's this real festive energy. And it's beautiful because it's really accessible. It's cheap to go do. It's a nice place to escape the urban environment of Detroit and to kind of just get back out to nature with river views. And there's even a beach there that's pretty nice. I mean, people going in and swimming, and you could sunbathe and do all your normal beach activities while looking out on Detroit.
That is surreal. I next time I'm in Detroit, I'm definitely checking this out.
And you get there's food trucks there. There's a couple food establishments that are open, and I have to say they were better quality than I was like expecting from just like your average, in park food. But there's also a couple of cultural things I'd encourage you to seek out. They've got a Coast Guard station there. They also have a lighthouse that's a really cool design. It's like an Art Deco lighthouse, and it's completely made of marble, and it's functional. I mean, it's made to make sure that no ships run aground on Belle Isle, and so it's worth seeking out if you're able. And along the same lines as the sort of beauty of that well-designed lighthouse, there's a fountain that's called the Scott Memorial Fountain. Now, I'll say they've just begun a long renovation of the Scott Memorial fountain. It's kind of called the Jewel of Belle Isle. Like this is that great huge fountain in Chicago that you have to go see, and just like it's like a roar of water. It's so impressive.
Totally, yeah. That's always on Instagram.
Yeah, so the Scott Memorial Fountain is like the equivalent of that. It's huge. It's got dolphins. It's got lions spitting water. It's got a high up jet, and the story behind it is pretty funny. It's named James Scott is sort of this rapscallion historic character in Detroit who basically inherited a bunch of money, but he's renowned for engaging with prostitutes and frittering away his fortune. And then somebody gave a huge amount of money to build this fountain, but wanted his name on it. And Detroit was like, "Hey, beggars can't be choosers. We'll take the fountain."
That's so funny.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of you in a certain way.
I hope to have a fountain one day.
Yeah, actually, no, you didn't come from this level of wealth. I mean, I know you had the beach house, but a little different. And so the Memorial Fountain, in a bit, I think it's due to open in a year. So you're not going to see it in a year. And it was blocked off while I was there, though I was familiar with this fountain. But beyond that, there's also a museum that's worth seeking out. They've got a sort of like adjacent to each other, these three cultural institutions. One is a conservatory where they, grow and nurture plants and teach you about plants. Then there's an aquarium, there's a nature center, and then there is something called the Great Lakes Museum. And what's interesting about the Great Lakes Museum is that it teaches you about this kind of unique culture of the Lake District, of this Great Lake area, which, it's kind of a melding of American and Canadian influence. And the thing that there is to see there, it's called the Gothic Room. And the Gothic Room is literally a preserved room from a ship called the City of Detroit the three, the city of Detroit three. I assume there were two others prior to it that used to run in, I think it was the 50s, between Detroit and Cleveland, Detroit and Buffalo, kind of, these northern cities. And those would take many, many hours. So they built like these gentlemen's clubs inside, and it's got the kind of classic dark wood stained glass windows. You can picture lounging in here for hours, looking at the river passing, smoking your cigars. Probably.
Why can't we do that now?
I mean, it is love. Surely you're Googling it because I've described it. You can have events there. You can get married there. It's a really cool, well preserved little piece of history that I didn't even know existed.
That's really cool. I love that. I want to be on more boats next year. I think it's going to be one of my big resolutions.
So I just looked. The ship, it dates from the early 1900s, this era of these ships, but it was scrapped in the 1950s. So this room was saved in 1956, and then it was stored in a barn in Ohio for 10 years before it found this permanent home out on Belle Isle. It's just such a nutty, cool thing to have.
That's very cool. Man, you're selling this Belle Isle.
Now, here's what's going to turn you against Belle Isle, Ryan, which is Frederick Law Homestead Sr., we're not talking about the sons, was up for the project of designing Belle Isle, and actually he received the commission, and he was not a huge fan of the layout of the island. I have a quote from him here. Conditions could not be more favorable to the breeding and nursing of mosquitoes. In the pools, I found discolored and covered by bubbles and green scum, and there was a putrescent organic matter on their borders. Putrescent. It must be related to putrid, I imagine.
Yeah. I mean, Olmsted is a literary guy.
Yeah, undergoing the process of decay and rotting. All right. So now this is like your other podcast that you do, that Red Lines podcast. We're teaching about words.
That got canceled.
I know. I just like reminding you of it. That's the one that paid you. So he worked with Detroit for 3 years, but found it extremely challenging and had the really extensive ideas of a tunnel system to get like water moving in and out of the island. He just saw like what was a swampy area and was trying to convert it into something of like a forest. And in the end, his design was rejected as too elaborate. And so they argued about the funds, and it just got really messy. And Olmsted, after several years of work, said, "You know what, good luck and good night," and just walked away. Now, they do say that the Belle Isle that you see today does have some of his influence there, because it does. You know how in Olmsted Parks he likes to create lots of different types of environments?
Yes, definitely.
That you definitely feel like you have these cultural areas, you have these kind of hangout playgroundy areas, you have the beach, you have what feels like more wood, and you can't see everything all at once. You have to kind of travel the island to get through all these environments, and that feels very Olmsteady. But ultimately, he was not the one to bring it to fruition. So an interesting kind of in between for the Olmsted fan in you.
Yeah, well, I think even just to see his influence, would be enough. I wonder how they solved some of those issues with the bugs and stuff.
I think they did a lot of landfill. I think he would. I mean, I'm sure his plan included that as well, but it's definitely it does not read as marshy at all. I guess there's one area where you kind of see some like inland water, and I'm sure that they do get mosquitoes in there, but it's not. It sounds like what he was inheriting at that time was really not palatable.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, it's a huge amount of work to make these parks as beautiful as they are.
Now, the other thing that I want to highlight with Detroit that I don't think it gets enough cred for is its food scene. And Detroit itself has a great food scene, but the food scene that you just really have to check out is in Dearborn. And if you don't know Dearborn, it's directly outside Detroit. It's Dearborn. And Dearborn is the first Arab majority city in the U.S. It's 110,000 people, has the largest mosque in North America, and it's one of the few U.S. cities where the mayor is Muslim and Arab. It's got Muslim holidays that are a paid holiday for city employees. You can hear the call to prayer. It's a huge immigrant community. And as so often happens, large immigrant communities means great immigrant food.
I have only ever passed through Dearborn. I've never had a chance to eat there. So that sounds fantastic.
So it's got the largest population of Arab Americans and the largest Muslim population per capita in the U.S. And you feel it there. I mean, the signs are literally feature Sanskrit and English. I mean, it defines the city. And Dearborn's a city where I have spent a lot of time because Ford's world headquarters is in Dearborn. So it's directly adjacent to all of this wonderful food. And I had a hot tip from the creative director at the restaurant company I work for, Clover. She was recently in Detroit for a wedding and met an influencer there. She's very active in the food community and met this TikTok star. His handle is at Halal Food Guru, at Halal Food Guru. And what he does is he goes out and he reviews and he tries great food all around Detroit with a special focus on Dearborn. And they kind of hit it off, and he took them to this restaurant that I'll link to in the show notes. It's called Altayeb. Altayeb, Altayeb. Very unassuming, kind of a strip mall-y sort of place. There's a lot of great food in these strip malls in Dearborn. And you can get great guides to Detroit food at Eater. You can Google. There's been Bon Appetit articles. There's tons of coverage online for places to call out. But this one I had never seen before. And so we beelined there for a lunch with the family, and it could not have been more delicious. Very reasonably priced, really just delicious vegetarian food. The falafel that I'm like still thinking about, and they just do. They kind of wowed me with how much they take the same set of ingredients that, I mean, certainly that we have at Clover, but it's kind of that the chickpea, the cilantro, parsley, like all of these like base ingredients that you associate with Middle Eastern food, and they create 30 different variations of it, all of which have different character, different appeal. They hit you a little more with the umami, or they kind of sweeten it up with like pomegranate molasses. I mean, it was really such a feast, and we went home with tons of leftovers, and I just couldn't recommend it enough. And it made me think, God, I wish I could spend just 1 week in Halal Food Guru's shoes, because there's just so much good food to check out there in Dearborn.
Oh, you're making me hungry. But yeah, that sounds fantastic.
So over the top.
I mean, it's I haven't had. One of the things about being in Latin America is there's just not the diversity of food options.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, like I'm all those flavors I miss.
Well, and you can check out lots of different types of Middle Eastern cuisine because a lot of different immigrant communities come together there. But Detroit itself also has really distinct neighborhoods that still retain their sort of immigrant character. They have one area called Mexican Town. We ordered in from a Mexican place there. And it was, 5 times better than it like had to be for Mexican takeout food. We just had like basic tacos and fajitas, really super well done. I was like the only English speaker when I walked in the door, and that's always what you want. There's Greek Town, where there's our cool like Greek diners, and I actually, it's not particularly known for this, but I once saw a write-up, and I remember I was really depressed on a business trip once, and I was like, I just need like a simple, really great meal. And I went to get pupusas at this place called Pupuseria y Restaurante Salvadoreno. And it's still open. They make super authentic pupusas. And, I mean, your dollar goes really far. And you feel like you're supporting this kind of family that started this restaurant from scratch. So really fun food. And then Catherine and I had one night out where we could go to like more of a high-end restaurant. And because we had such a great experience in Dearborn, we chose a sort of high-end Lebanese restaurant called Leila, Leila. Super accommodating, really fresh ingredients. The table just like felt like summer. We had a tomato salad. They said it had 9 different types of heirloom tomatoes in it. It tasted like that.
Oh,
Really spectacularly done. And it was nice to get the kind of cheap eats version and then the high end version in one trip. So I'd really recommend trying to pair both of them, and I'd really recommend Leila. The hospitality was perfect. We were sitting outside. It started to thunderstorm. They couldn't have been nicer about trying to help us stay outside than finally bringing us inside. It was really spectacular. And I'll link to all of these in the show notes. I also, you know me, I'm a beer drinker. I really just wanted to seek out like one great brewery while I was in town. There are a few that get good write-ups, but in this kind of nowheresville, like industrial road, in this kind of warehousey space, I read about and found this place called Brewery Faisan, Faisan, which I believe is pheasant in French, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if that's right. Is pheasant. Yes, pheasant in French. Brewery Faisan, really good, accessible beers. I had like an amber ale there that I really liked. Super cool designs on the cans, just laid back, a neat place that felt like a passion project from someone who really knows their beer. And then, of course, Ryan, finally, really important when you're in Detroit to get Detroit style pizza. So now, are you
yes.
familiar with this style of pizza?
Yes, I am definitely. I like Detroit style pizza a lot.
And so tell me the basics. What makes it a Detroit style pizza?
Isn't it mostly that it's square and like kind of thick?
Yep, that's right. It's got that deep dish like sense about it. It's got 4 corners, which is great because you want corner pieces to get those crisp caramelized edges. And then the other major thing besides that that square or rectangle is that they do cheese first and tomato on top, then any toppings you want. But cheese goes on first.
What?
Yeah, this is the way of Detroit pizza.
Wow, interesting.
It's a super cool way to do it. I really like when they get the like almost burnt crust sides, and it's very kind of pillowy high dough. We consulted a recent list from Bon Appetit of the best pizzerias in Detroit. Personally, I went to one called Piesci, Piesci. Actually ended up going there twice on the trip, which tells you how much I liked it. They were less like traditional toppings, much more creative, interesting, but really, really tasty, good combinations, and a good representation of this kind of quintessential Detroit style pie. But if you want something more traditional, head to that list. There's great recommendations in there for those that have been around for decades.
That sounds great. You're making Detroit the pizza with the pizza.
I mean, I assume you don't get much Detroit style pizza in Bogota.
No, I don't. I don't want to talk about the pizza in Bogota.
I will say there's a spectacular Detroit style pizza here in Boston.
Really?
Yeah, I recently stumbled in when a different pizza place was closed. And I said to the guy, "This is extraordinary." He said, "Yeah, I just opened it. I wasn't sure if it was a chain or something I wasn't familiar with, and it was great." Hell, I'll link to them in the show notes too.
Yeah, why not? People, nobody's ever mad to have a good place to go eat pizza.
Their place is called Detroit Pizza Company. That's the Boston-based Detroit Pizza Company, but a really hell of a Detroit-style pizza. I think it's a breakout type of style of pizza. I think we're going to be seeing it more and more.
Yeah, no, that's I know there was a place or two in Brooklyn. I don't remember, but I do remember. I just don't remember the cheese thing. That's surprising to me. I have to be on the lookout for that.
Well, Ryan, I hope I've sold you on a return trip, a 7th trip to Detroit. And it sounds like I've covered a fair number of places you didn't know, which is very pleasing to me.
Yeah, I think so. We didn't even talk about Diego Rivera.
Well, that's in 101. If you want the murals, you go to 101. Help, maybe you can go Paris, Detroit to Dublin. Reroute.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time for the last stop.
The last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
Well, Ryan, this is the last stop of the show. It's the final segment. It's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. It's popularly known as the people segment, and that's because it's very communal. It's where we come together. We put aside the meat and potatoes topics that make it into the subject line way up front, the title of the episode. Here we can be ourselves, and mostly we can share. We can share anything. It could be a deep thought. It could be something flippant. It could be a tale or a yarn. It could be a story of woe, or it could be celebrating a great piece of content that you found, an article in the New Yorker, maybe even just a cartoon. But it has to check one box. It must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workday week. So, Ryan, I'm going to ask you, as I ask you every episode, do you have a last stop this week?
I do, Kiernan. This is sort of like, I don't know that it inspires me, but it's just sort of like a warning. Singapore has been really cracking down on vaping. You know, it's illegal to vape in Singapore. It's illegal to sell vapes.
I believe you can't even. Don't they have some regulations around gum chewing there?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not a big gummer, and so but those caught, and this is from the BBC. Those caught using or possessing vapes, even regular ones, meaning non marijuana, will face increased fines starting from 500 Singaporean dollars, which is about 390 US, and state mandated rehabilitation.
Good golly.
That's,
oh, man.
Yeah, so a big chunk of change, and then something that sounds kind of frightening: state mandated rehabilitation.
And you used to be in the vape game.
I know, and these rules apply to tourists. And
good thing you're getting the word out to your fellow vapors.
So apparently they're putting a lot of signs in the airport reminding visitors when they arrive to throw away their vapes, and there are vape disposal bins so people can get rid of them. I was going to
say, if you're in the market for used vapes, this would be the place to pick them up at the airport.
I hope Singapore is doing something with those vapes, but yeah, it's just an interesting thing to see. And, I'm not going to Singapore in the near future, but, I'm going to be in Thailand in December. And I was, figuring I might.
Oh, I didn't know that. Are you and Chase going there?
Yeah, it's our big yearly trip.
I know you usually do the Bangkok. One that's acquaintance of the show, Chase Whiteside.
We're going to get a big episode out of that one, I think. Couple, maybe.
I was going to say just one. Hey, there's going to be a lot to tell. He's a 2-time Peabody Award loser.
I have not been to Thailand since 2007.
Huh. Well, that's you're going to see some changes, I think.
Yeah, and the White Lotus really got me in the mood. So
major boost to tourism from that.
Don't vape in Singapore. Did you bring a last stop this week, Kieran?
I did, of course. And, in a way, this is an anti-last stop, which is, I think it's killing my spirit of wanderlust, which is, I was daydreaming. We always say the best way to stay motivated and not depressed when you're winding a trip down is to start planning the next trip. And I was starting to cast where you and I, Ryan, might visit together. And I've been thinking about St. Louis. It checks a lot of the boxes. It's got a national park there. It's got cultural sites. And, it's kind of one of those not obvious cities to go visit, sort of like the Richmond, Virginia that we went to together, or like Louisville. I feel like St. Louis would kind of keep that trend going. And so literally for a minute and a half, I went to kayak and I just looked, okay, flights, Boston to St. Louis, a Thursday to a Monday, whatever. And, priced it out, and that was that. And I moved on with my life after a little Googling around St. Louis. Well, the search for that flight has been haunting me for like 6 weeks. I keep getting these emails from kayak that started with the subject lines, from Boston to St. Louis, starting at $224. Fine. Then 2 days later, forgot about St. Louis? ? And then just there's been email after email after email, all with St. Louis in the subject line. So desperate. And then
you need to submit. You need to just convert, buy the ticket. It's the only way out of this.
It's the only way. The most recent one had the best subject line of all, which was knock knock. It's St. Louis. Like, is that really the one that's converting people? Knock knock, it's St. Louis. So I don't know. I mean, hey, I guess
I imagine that's a little sexier if it's knock knock, it's Paris,
Yeah, there's something about the formulation.
You don't want St. Louis at the door.
Like, knock knock, it's Rapid City, South Dakota. Anyway, I think it's a good contender. We're not currently planning it, but I'm starting to think about it, and I think St. Louis. And you know what? I think they have a 21C hotel, my favorite hotel brand.
And I think the fact that you use kayak is the most revealing part of that story.
Why? What are you using?
Google Flights.
Google Flight. You know, you've just given into that Google machine.
No, Google Flights is so much better. Trust me.
All right, I'll give it a whirl.
All right. Well, I guess I'll have to do another episode on booking flights. But now that's really funny.
You say that, but this is the man who's about to do 4 different changes just to get to Dublin.
You know how cheap I am?
Not where suits and tattoos are concerned.
But no, when it comes to flying, I'm like, I can take an Ativan and go to sleep. It doesn't really matter. Well, Kiernan, knock knock. I think it's time for us to head out. That
was about as good a transition as that subject line.
I'm going to start saying knock knock on this show all the time.
It's not bad for a tagline. It's kind of like pack your bags, Buster Brown. Knock knock, pack your bags, Buster Brown.
Oh, well, until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
The seat taken.
Knock knock.
Oh God, it's St. Louis again.